Mike Parenti. How you doing?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. I'm stoked to have you on here after we got to meet and hang out at the Buckeye Bike Show back
Yeah.
in, was it June? It was June. It's the
Yeah.
time's going so fast that I'm like, was it still June?
Jeez, I think it might have been the end of May, but who's counting anymore, right? But yeah, that was great catching up with you and meeting you for the first time, and yeah, man, it was a cool show. Definitely fun to see that other side of like bike enthusiasts, and see how like they have a different passion for bikes than outside of like riding professionally or for freestyle in general. Just how they just love bikes, and just especially that era. So it was cool chatting with all those dudes and hanging with them for the weekend.
Yeah. It's something I don't typically think too much about because I don't
Right.
go to a lot of those shows, but those guys they just love the bikes themselves.
They are fully passionate about it, and yeah, I was only kind of there for Dave Voelker. They feature a rider every year to come out and do the autographs and meet and greets and stuff. So they picked Dave Voelker, and he was wanting a few dudes to hang with him. So he brought Brian Blyther and me, his two good friends, best friends, to come hang out with him for the weekend and just kind of be hang-arounds, an entourage for Volker, I guess.
That's kind of sick though, because he has this cool opportunity to be a special guest, and he's like, I'm gonna bring some more people along with me.
Yeah, and I a big thanks out to him. He did fly us out and invited us out, and so he on his paid for our flights and stuff. So I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know if the event did that or not, but either way, I'm just appreciative for Dave and for the Buckeye Bike Show for having us out. And yeah, Dave was psyched, man. He was like in front of the marquee. He thought it was a great deal, and to meet everybody like that was just. And it's outside of my thing. I'm not a big bike collector myself. I rode all my bikes into the ground, and they're all broken and cracked. So, but I do appreciate the like history of it and how they keep it going, and how they refurbish these bikes from barn finds to garage finds to and they have industries within itself who restore these things and powder coat them, and it's like, and there's big money in this stuff, and then they're not big freestylers or whatever, but they just love it, and it kind of they created their own community and their own like family, and it's like the same as like riding with your boys in the trails and that feeling at the skate park with your friends, and it's just like, all right, I get it, they just and some of their bikes that I see, it's just like they're amazing. It's cool to see that they're keeping up like the history of it and where it all kind of started. So it's cool. And on top of that, all the riders from the 80s who actually rode those things and did like 10-foot quarter pipe airs and tricks and with those. I mean, I'm looking at it and those bikes are beautiful and all, but it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, you're
Like,
not wrong.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna do a 360 down the stairs set in front of the parking lot, and I would blow that thing up. You know, what I'm saying? Like, so good. Like, props all to the old school riders, man, from the '80s who just rode those things and made them look good, man.
Yeah, that's a funny thing to talk about and think about, especially from your perspective of like someone who was there for some of it and like,
right.
Because I can't even imagine. I have anything with my bike. It makes a sound that's weird. And I'm like, what is it? We got to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was the same way growing up, and the bikes in the 90s where I was riding were the same thing. They were just a big box of bolts that were just clunk around. They would come loose immediately. So I couldn't imagine what those guys were going through and how much wheels they would go through and cranks and handlebar. They're just everything, just the forks. I mean,
I can't. Forks is scary.
it just
and
yeah.
the stories about crank arms and like one piece cranks just bending, so you flip them over and put them back.
What'd be really cool is actually to see some of these riders today ride like an '85 Haro Master, and just watch them maybe try to see what they can do on it, and I'm sure it would be amazing, but also just to see maybe a little perspective of like how long that bike lasts or felt to do tricks, right? And I think that'd be kind of a fun watch. I don't know.
Yes.
See somebody rip around on an old school bike, and I'm sure a lot of the collectors out there would be squinting and because you'd probably just destroy it. But I think it would be kind of fun to see how long it would go, or see
Yeah.
how, you know.
I kind of halfway had an opportunity like that, but it was not in the way you're talking about, because there's a guy who came to Raise a couple years ago who had taken, it was a mid 80s Haro frame that was broken already, and he does fab work, so he put his own front end on it with an integrated headset and put a mid bottom bracket on it, so it was like the same geometry and everything but with modern parts on it. And I tried to ride it. It had a coaster brake. It was so difficult to do anything on it, and that was just without having to think about, oh god, these wheels might fold, or oh, these cranks might bend. I was just trying to ride a bike. I can't imagine what it'd be like to actually ride the bike from back then and be worrying about, when I land this air out, is this tire gonna fold underneath me?
For sure. And those Z rims didn't have a little lip on them, so where the tire could, hold on. I mean, they were just flat, and I don't even know how the wheels or the tires even stayed on those wheels. It blew my mind to see some of those in real life, and to know that it would take 2 seconds to just ruin it. But,
for real.
Props to those guys in the '80s for riding like those bikes like that, man. It's crazy. So.
And admittedly, and ashamed, I will say, I don't know anything about your career or anything like that. But I've said it so many times, so sorry to everybody who's listening, but I love that I get to learn about people like you from you, rather than growing up hearing about people is really awesome, and then meeting them, that's amazing. But to have no idea and then be a full-grown adult who's been in BMX for 20 years and be like, who's this guy? And now we're talking, and you get to like tell me your story.
Right on. Yeah, no, it's just the wonderful thing about BMX. Everybody has like their story and their path that they took, and it's a bit of a generational gap. I was kind of wondering about before I came on here, was like, man, you got a younger audience, so I'm thinking, man, they probably don't even know who the hell I am, and that's okay, and that's something that was by choice. I didn't really want to. I had my moment, and I realized there was a time, where you could just, like, all right, I'm good. And so, if I could do a quick little kind of rundown how I got into it. It was more of I'm 45 now, from San Diego, a town called Ramona. I live here now again. It's a town about 45 miles, 45 minutes east of San Diego, like northeast. So we're out in the country, as you can tell, a little bit, and a lot of dirt, not a whole lot of skate parks or street riding. So I got into just BMX through an older brother. He was kind of into it, and I had some neighbors across the street that were into it. And it was something that during the time of where my family was splitting apart. My mom was getting divorced, so it was something like to do a little bit of an outlet. So around 10 years old, I got into racing. So around the late 80s, I got kind of interested into it, got into the racing around 10. And then that always kind of followed with freestyle. Like I would, friends across the street, we built some jumps on the top of our, just dirt out here. So we just built a bunch of dirt jumps. And shout out to those guys, Peter and Adam Lindsay, for being one of the ones that kind of were riding with me in the very beginning. And then as I got to about 13 or 14, I really got more new. I knew more of the town, more of who was riding and stuff. And this Carlos Guzman was one of my good friends, and he was really the guy who kind of was more advanced than me, and actually taught me a lot, and got to where I was like really into freestyle. So around 13, 14, racing got pretty competitive. I got to like 13 expert, and I was like, this shit's crazy now. Got to train and eat right, and I'm like just a kid still, and these guys were pretty good and sponsors. So freestyle started kind of taking over. And those were the times where I was kind of watching some of the first like Matt Hoffman videos and stuff like that, head first stuff, and some of the Eddie Roman, like the Ride On and all that. So I guess like when technically BMX was really dead, I don't know if it was ever dead, if you really want to say it was, but everybody thought it was dead in the 90s because of all the sponsors, big sponsors were backing out and all that. But it was just a reset, really.
I got a couple
It was
questions
like,
too in the
yeah,
middle of this. So you're talking about being 13, 14, 15, getting more advanced into the freestyle thing, transitioning from racing, talking about
yeah.
watching Matt Hoffman and Eddie Roman and stuff. At that point in time, how were you finding these videos? Like, how'd you hear about them? Was it just word of mouth with the people locally?
Yeah. It was just like friends around in the neighborhood. Like there would always be like 20 dudes who rode bikes, right? But there was maybe
Mm,
like 5 guys that were like really good, right? You
mm-hmm.
know, and there was like 15 others dudes that were pretty good, but they weren't taking it as serious as you know. So one dude would get a VHS tape from his older brother that who knows where he got it from, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He might have known one of the Dirt Brothers or something I don't know, but it ends up kind of, oh, we all go to that dude's house. And he's like, "Oh, we got this new video, you know." And so when I would hang out with some of the riding friends up there, they would just kind of come across their laps that way, you know. And it would be definitely months or maybe years later. "Oh, this
Yeah.
came out last year. Oh, okay," you know. And you don't, just so when it hit you, you could have it might have been a couple years later, you know.
Y-
But it
Yeah.
it it was something I think you could buy in the bike shops and stuff, but there was only a few bike shops that was really into the BMX thing, almost kind of how it is today, where it's very specialized in certain areas. But that's kind of
So
how we got around. Yeah, you would borrow it from your friend, and never give it back for 3 weeks because you just watch it.
just never give it back ever.
Yeah, you're just like, whatever, man. I guess it's mine now. I'm watching it more than you.
That's so funny.
Um,
At that time, too, what exactly was there available close by to ride? Was it still just dirt? Was there any kind of skate parks at all? Was it backyard ramps? What was available?
Not, it was not. So I'm thankful enough and lucky enough to grow up in Southern California, and especially in the San Diego area, where a lot of this stuff happened and
Mm-hmm.
was built and born, and the companies. So being around it was just like there was always surfing and skating and just the culture. Even though I grew up in a small town and it was a little bit of a drive to get to these places, I still had Mission Trails, famous dirt spot 20 minutes away from me. I still could go down to the Pacific Beach and Hamels and watch all the Flatlanders, do their flatland tricks in front of Hamels at Mission Beach. And But as far as skate parks didn't really exist, it was more of like finding street spots and ditches, and it was mostly like dirt spots, like Mission Trails and people's backyard ramps, like you were talking about. Like it was more of that going on. And I remember the first skate park being in Escondido, California, not too far from me. It was about a 15-minute drive. So that was like that all metal ramp. I don't know if you remember that or seen photos of that, but it was a all metal ramp that was a skate park that was pretty. It was actually really fun to ride, and it developed actually a kind of a culture and a style here in San Diego. And that was probably in the late 90s. But it
So,
wasn't. But in the early 90s, I mean, that there was nothing. It was just build your dirt jumps,
yeah.
you know.
So, like, at that point, had you heard about skate parks, or was this just you didn't even know they existed?
I knew they existed, but it was nowhere in California, really.
Okay.
Then when I started kind of really meeting some of the more pro level riders in SD, like Dave White and Manuel De La Cruz and some of the Dirt Brothers and stuff like that, and Vic Murphy and stuff like those were the times that I started finding out that, oh, this dude's got a backyard in his, or he's got a ramp in his backyard, or this skate shop down in, San Diego has got some ramps, and we know some people, and we could try to maybe see if they let us ride it. Because the BMX skate thing was always kind of a tough relationship back then.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like I remember doing that a lot, like finding these skate companies or part companies that would actually have like a nice little ramp or mini setup in their back, warehouse or something. And so that would be kind of another way that I would actually hit a skate park,
Yeah.
and it wouldn't be much, but that would be the closest thing to a skate park at that
Wow.
time.
So,
Yeah.
okay, we go back. You were 13, 14, 15, transitioning from racing more into freestyle. How's that go?
Really quick, actually. It was kind of one of those things where my buddy Carlos and I had some jumps in Ramona behind the K-Mart, and we made it like a skate park. We had like a tabletop. We had like a dirt spine, and we kind of made our own spot. We had this one huge jump that it was like a 7 foot tall lip, and we had this. My buddy Carlos really had an idea of what now I guess we'd call like a mega ramp setup almost, but we just used the lip for like a quarter pipe for so long until we had enough balls to jump it. And so that started really ramping up all that and making those trips down to like Mission Trails and meeting a lot of the other dudes, the pros around the neighborhood, and getting kind of swept under their wing a little bit. Another one comes to mind was Junior Torres. He was a good friend of all the Dirt Brother guys, and he had connections everywhere, and he was able to get me bikes and stuff. And he was the one that I guess saw something in me. I guess, I don't know. I was just a kid that was really didn't have a ball. I just flung myself around. I didn't really have any thought. I just had like, I had balls, and I just was brave, and I went for it. And so he was the one that actually took me to my first like contest kind of deal in like 95 or something. It was up in the Moreno Valley Chicken Jam or something like that. And it was kind of one of those moments where that started happening, and got more out there amongst the riding kind of scene, I guess. And then that's kind of where my first sponsor-ish, kind of like a flow sponsor, was SE Bikes in a weird way, where they were making this frame called the Dirt Master. And it was like a dirt jumping only frame, kind of just like something that kind of would compete with the Fueler, you know. So around that time, 14, 15 is kind of when it started becoming sort of serious here. Like, all right, I'm getting got a free frame, and this is sweet. And, they want to take some pictures to do an ad or something. So I think shout out to Chris Beecher on that one. I think he was the welder product manager for the Dirt Master frames, and Mike Devitt at SE out there in San Marcos. So didn't realize that SE made a dirt jumping frame, did you? Called Dirt Master. Maybe Todd could bring some of those back.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Boy, 29-inch Dirt Master.
Yeah,
but they were actually really cool, man. Like, they were a well-built frame. Everything was overbuilt at that time, so everything was like oversized down tubes and top tubes and all that.
Man, so at that point in time, can you remember kind of where your head was at when you were starting to make those connections and things were starting to happen?
My head was just, I wanted to just learn how to do a backflip. I had no aspirations of becoming a professional rider. I didn't think it was possible. I knew that I had a lot more tricks to learn to even think about becoming to that level, or thinking about making it a career or a job. I was just literally wanting to learn how to do a backflip on a bike, man, and like maybe pick up some chicks. Like,
so funny.
Check this out, and I'll do a backflip for you. Hey, you want to go on a date? Like, that was basically my mindset at like 14, 15 years old. Was like, that was the only thing I wanted to do. And I wasn't thinking about going to contests or wanting to go to contests or becoming pro. It wasn't even a thought in my mind. I just wanted to learn a backflip and be good on my bike and get away with what was going on at home and shit, and just hang with my boys and have fun on my bike, and get through high school. And it wasn't even a thought. Yeah. And the way it came about was insane. About 15 years old, I was sitting there behind K-Mart, and this dude comes in a Toyota truck, lifted, with a bike in the back. And I was like, man, that's a nice truck. That's pretty sick. He's got a bike. And he's like, fuck. Kind of looks like Hulk Hogan or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck? He's got... That is Dave Voelker, right? And I'm like, holy shit. And I'm kind of like, sort of know him, kind of, because I'm just getting into this, and he was more of the older rider. Oh, geez, I'm more of like the the 90s riders that I know of, like Hoffman and Taj and Joe Rich and, you know, that crew of like, those are the dudes I was like, when I got into it going, oh shit. But to know that history about him, I was aware of it, but just, it kind of shocked me that he was at my dirt jumps at the moment. And he's like, yo, just bought a house in town. You guys ride, you know, and he was super cool and super friendly and rode with us for the afternoon. And he was like, hey, bro, I'm going to go on summer tour. I'll be back, you know, da da da. And, you know, he backflips our jump and everything. And I'm like, motherfucker, dude, this just cool as shit. Like the first time I actually met like a real pro, you know, like, wow, dude. And just actually saw some real riding, like how it's actually done on that level. And it just blew my mind. Like I didn't know what to think of it, but it definitely gave me a lot of motivation.
Well, it sounds like he was one of those people that we all know, like there's those people that when they show up, it's just like, God, that guy's so cool.
Right. Yeah. And it was such a memory of mine. Right. And it was just this first time I actually saw someone do like a backflip in real life in front of my, you know, face on a jump that we built. Like I didn't even know I could build a jump that was able to do a backflip on. Like I was literally, I didn't know if it was possible on the jump that we built, but he did it. And I was like, well, no, I know it's possible. So that was like our summertime. Like we got to learn how to do backflips, man, you know? And, before he actually went out to summer tour, he did invite us out to go lake jumping. And he's like, you know, hey man, what are you doing Wednesday? And I'm thinking, I'm in school. Like, so I like had to convince my mom all night, man. Like, can I ditch school? He's like, he's Dave Voelker. You don't understand, like, you know. And she's like, what? Who is this almost 30-year-old dude want to hang out with my 15-year-old? You know, it was kind of, and I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking back on. Yeah, that's right. She's got a point. But I mean, at that time, I wanted to go lake jumping with them. So I did school with my buddy Carlos, and we caught up with him. And he has the one of the GT show ramps, you know, from the NBA shows out, and we're wheeling it. And then we're down in his hometown in Santee, and he's got this river behind a Walmart there. And he's got Brian Blyther with him, Mark Losey, Josh Hino, and Ruben Castillo, Flatlander from Texas. Wow. And they're all like, hey, what's up? And we're all like having a good time. And man, that was the first time I learned backflips. Is he was teaching us how to do it into the lake jump. And ironically enough, the first time I got a picture in the magazine, Losi happened to be there he was shooting for BMX Plus at the time. And about a month or two later, I see my picture in the magazine, and I thought that was the neatest thing. I'm like bailing out of a backflip, you know, and there was my name and my picture. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever, you know.
That is,
and that was just one of those first moments of like, all right, this is like, I got to start hanging out with him more, you know. This is like cool to get some photos, and you know, this is, but still wasn't crossing my mind that, you know, I barely know how to do backflips, you know. So it was kind of, it wasn't even crossing my mind. And then man, about almost a year later, he does summer tour, comes back, we hang out a few more times, ride a few more times, and then out of nowhere, like every kid's dream, just says, hey man, like just totally nonchalantly, put your name in for GT, you might get a call. I'm like, what the hell does that mean, you know? And then sure enough, a couple weeks later, I get a call from Woody Itzen, was just an old freestyler as well, who team manager at the time for GT Bikes. Says, hey, I've never done this before. Dave Voelker has never recommended any rider to me before to sponsor, but he recommended you. And this is the first time I'm ever going to sponsor a rider without watching them ride first. So congratulations, you're on GT. I'm like, what in the world just happened? Like, I am literally just blown away. Like a year ago, I just met Dave. We hang out a few times. I go lake jumping with him. I learned those backflips. He comes back from summer tour. He's like, wow, you got pretty good. And all of a sudden I'm on GT. Like, what is, like, it blew my mind. I didn't think I deserved it. I felt a little like, I got to get better. What are you talking about? I'm not like ready. Like,
yeah.
Am I just going to do shows? Like, what's my role? And sure enough, that's kind of how I started a little bit, was doing some shows. But like 3 months later, I'm being sent to Wichita, Kansas for a King of Dirt contest because at the time, Ruel Erickson left GT, and I thought I was going to go to the contest with Ruel Erickson, and that all uh, just ended up being me. And now I'm this scared 16-year-old kid that is riding now with Nyquist and Anastasio and TJ Lavin on my side, and I'm just tripping out. I'm just totally tripping. So yeah, that's kind of how that all went down, man. I was just some little kid in a small town who just happened to be lucky and get seen at the right place at the right time by the right person.
How did the contest go?
The first one went well. There's a whole lot of backstory to this. At the same time, there was this HBO TV crew trying to do a documentary about extreme sports. Now, at the time, what I didn't know is that they were kind of going around to everybody, and they went to like some of the S&M dudes, and they went some other guys, and then I think Dave Voelker was getting followed around, and then all of a sudden I get sponsored, and all of a sudden they kind of see this young kid just got sponsored. Oh my God. And then they started focusing in on me, and then all of a sudden the spotlight was on me. Like, seems like they chose me to be a part of their piece of their documentary, which at the time I'm like, let's just calm down. I just got on this GT sponsorship. I don't want a documentary crew following me around. I felt like, now looking back, I'm like, man, that was gnarly as hell. Like, I didn't really have any guidance of like how to handle all of that. Just being sponsored was heavy enough for me. And so the first time I actually went to GT, I had an HBL film crew with me. Walking in with Dave Voelker and Woody Itzen, microphone on, and oh geez. And it was just like, it was a lot of pressure. I felt like, holy shit, like I better do good, like this is crazy. So and then I show up to Wichita, Kansas at a King of Dirt contest with this new GT rider, and who's this? And Dave Volker's, sidekick or something, and he's got a film crew with him, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so like embarrassed, thankfully I did well at that contest, and I got 5th place at my first professional contest, which I was like my second actual BMX contest ever, and it was besides the amateur one in Moreno Valley. So that was one of those moments of like, holy shit, man. On top of meeting all my heroes, that I still had posters of them on my wall. That was amazing. So that was one of like a great start, but at the same time, like, holy shit, this is a lot to take in at the same time.
Was that their first time meeting you too?
Yeah.
So they're like seeing this kid roll up with a film crew, and they're like, I don't know who this kid is.
Totally.
That's so crazy to think about.
It was very intimidating. But what I can tell you is that I was blown away. That was my first time of really like seeing what BMX is all about. I was blown away about how nice and friendly everybody was, man. I thought I was going to be like in a competitive environment, and they're going to be a little bit like, who's this kid? Fuck you, or whatever. But everybody was cool as shit. At the end of the day, at the end of the contest, I think I had everybody's phone number, and it was like, whenever you're in town, come ride my ramps, come ride my jerk dumps, come stay at my house. I'm like, this is blowing my mind, I mean, from Nyquist and Anastasio to TJ Lavin to Ruel Erickson to bar spinner Ryan to Sean Butler to, I mean, Josh Stricker, everybody that was riding the Freddie Chulos, that just all of a sudden I was like good friends with them. And it was like, we were just boys from that moment on.
Incredible. What?
And then
go ahead.
Yeah. So that was the cool part about it. That's what really made me feel like, I don't know. I didn't know if I was going to get welcomed or not. I mean, who, I don't know. What did I earn? Yeah,
I mean, rolling up with a TV crew, they're probably like, whoa, who's this kid? Then you get 5th in that lineup. They're probably, okay.
Right. And I was tripping. And but at the same time, not all those contests the first year went so well either. And I quickly realized that that's kind of what that HBO film crew wanted, was a little bit of that darker side of extreme sports. Because they also highlighted some other extreme sport dudes, you know, and that were going through that road to the X Games kind of stuff, and they were showing all the downfalls and the crashes. So there's a few contests after that that didn't go quite as well, and but there was a lot of contests that did, and there was other ones that I did perform well and got in the finals and did well. But unfortunately, when it did come out, it was more of on the negative side of me
Oh yeah.
not making the call, you know, and you know, having bike issues or bending forks, you know, or something like that, and you know, showing the conversations with my mom and shit at the hotel room, and just you know, just I'm like a kid, dude. And it was kind of a gnarly like thing looking back at, like as an adult, like holy shit, man, like.
So what are your parents thinking when this is all start? Like, how do those conversations go down where you're okay, you're hooked up by GT now, and then the
Yeah.
HPO conversation starts? Because obviously they can't just film you without some kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they could back then, but doesn't
Yeah.
seem like they could.
Yeah, they would like come to my house and everything. I think my mom was tripping. She didn't really know what to think about it. She was happy at the same time, worried and concerned about the longevity of it or what I'm going to be doing to my body. You know, she was always worried about my safety. I get it, you know, now having kids and stuff. Yeah. So, but she had a mixed emotions about it. You know, she wasn't too sure about all this, you know, and she was just trying to make sure. Uh, she was trying to, I guess, being a little protective at the time, but as a little bit kind of like at first, kind of like, whoa, you can make money doing this. Like,
Uh-huh.
what do you mean? You know, and it was a new concept. Like, yeah, you can make money riding bike. Like, you can't just make money. Like, her idea of having a job wasn't riding your bike, you know, professionally. So that was a kind of a mindset that she had a hard time kind of accepting, I guess, you know, especially when I start making more money than her. I think some shit gets kind of, you know, it's a little weird. So she definitely has mixed emotions about it. But overall, she was tripping out and pretty happy about it because, you know, HBO did come to our house and she was a part of it in some capacity of like, you know, how do you feel about your son? And she's like, oh, you know, she's, you know, just like kind of an old school mom, you know. So she was very worried about her son. And
What did they have to like get signed paperwork and all this stuff to even be
yeah,
allowed to do it?
they did. It did. And that was one of those moments where, you know, looking back, maybe I would have maybe said, hey, maybe not right now kind of deal.
Mm,
But I think, you know, it's hard when not much going on at the time and during life. And it's a kind of an exciting thing, you know, to have cameras come in and want to talk to you and you feel, oh, you know, it's a little. So I think she just got excited about, you know, some of that part of it, you know, just being on
yeah.
TV, just being on TV in general was kind of a neat idea, I guess. And so she was okay with, you know, I guess signing some of those. But it's a documentary, so it wasn't like, you know, we were getting paid or anything. It was just voluntarily a thing they would do, and they followed me around for like 6 months. They even went to my school, like high school and shit. I had like,
Oh my God.
it was insane. I was like,
You had to be the
I don't even
coolest
know
dude.
it helped me or hurt me in high school. Everybody was like, "Who's this?" And they're like, "Why?" And it's almost like, you know, when you know kids are making money now playing video games online and stuff like
Mm,
that. You know, it's like that first mindset of like, what? People will just watch you play video. It's like, yeah, and you get paid money doing it, like really good. And I think that's the same thing as BMX back then. I don't know. It just seemed like a really
wow.
obscure thing to do for a job, and no one realized that you could actually get paid for it. So yeah, I got HBO at my high school.
That's so wild to
It
think
was it
about.
was it was such an insane start, you know, to be at contests and then to go to high school and then have these weekends doing like NBA halftime shows and hanging out with these guys and partying and then going back to high school Monday morning and
Did you even take school seriously at that point? I mean, that'd be hard to take serious.
I did. I had to, man. I wanted to graduate because that was one of the things that GT or Woody Itson did made sure yeah, you got to have a degree to stay on the team. And I
Mm,
said, no problem.
high
But
school degree. These days it'd be
you,
college.
right, you're right. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I can't be getting pulled out of school all the time, Woody. So like, there's, and I understand it. You know, you got this new kid that they're sponsor, they're paying him a salary, and you know he's in school most of the time. You can't use him, you know. So there was a lot of that. Uh, I understand, and I was only so many days I can miss until I start losing credits. So I remember kind of just doing a lot of homework on the airplanes. You
Mm.
know, I had 3 4 hours to kill. I had to catch up, getting these crazy big packets from my teachers to go, all right, well, here's your week's worth of, work. All right, So I had some exceptions. There were some counselors that were really cool at my high school that really thought it was neat, especially when you have HBO come
No
to your
kidding.
school. I had a little bit of a pull of being able to get some more time off that I needed. But yeah, that was kind of a tough deal. And once I did graduate, I think from grad night, I flew out to Chicago to be at a contest, or it was full bore from there.
Yeah, that's
But kind
awesome.
of a funny, I kind of like, I wasn't really the only one. A funny story was is my second contest after that Wichita one was the first time I met Chris Doyle and Alan Cook, and it was their first time uh, at a contest. So I felt
Mm.
so much better. I was like out in Arizona somewhere. It was a dirt jumping contest, and this was when dirt jumping was at all the races and stuff. So I got to hang out with a lot of the racers at the time. But it was cool meeting Doyle for the first time, realizing it was his first contest, and so it brought my nerves at ease that I wasn't the only one riding against these amazing riders that I looked up to, and that there's another scared 16-year-old.
Mm.
So shout out to those guys. That was some cool memories in the beginning. Doyle and Cook.
It's so crazy to think about Doyle as a 16-year-old at a first contest.
Yeah, it right. I know, and it's amazing to watch what he's done with BMX in his career, and I think it's been amazing to see everybody's path they've took with, and even Alan Cook, and just what you do after BMX or during the time of BMX, and I'm just stoked for everybody that everybody kind of made it through safely,
Mm.
and everybody made it out in a positive way. And so, because sometimes it can get, as we all know, a little dark in our sport, and that's unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
uh,
At this point in the story, though, I feel like we're still pretty early. We're still at
yeah,
16-year-old you.
I know I jumped ahead a bit, but
It's okay. It's
yeah,
just like that's another crazy thing to think about. Is like you lived an entire career's worth of a life up to being 16, being that you were in
yeah,
something that was on TV with a film crew following you around, doing
right,
shows, getting paid. And there's people you're in school with that
yeah,
still like had never even had a job at that point.
right, right,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, it blew my mind as well. I didn't really know what to think about it. It it still kind of trips me out, to be honest with you.
So you graduated and then you
Yeah.
went kind of full time. You left that night.
Mhm.
Where do things go from there? You're still competing. How's it look?
Yeah, wow, that was straight into like going on summer tour. And at the time, that was GT would go to every bike shop that was a dealer for GT. And the bike shops that sold the highest selling bike shops that sold the most GT bikes would get a show.
Mm,
And GT would pay us a salary on top of per show to go do like hundreds of shows at bike shops across the United States.
wow.
So every show we would do 2 to 3, 1 to 2 bike shops sometimes a show, maybe 2 to 4 shows a day. And these bike shops were so appreciative. They'd always take us out and barbecue with us. And some of the best times was just being on summer tour and sharing BMX with people that I'd probably never seen it before, especially in some of these really small towns. I did, it was a really cool way to see America, just because it was like I get to really see some hometowns
Mm,
and perform on main streets in front of these people that it was kind of weird. Sometimes they wouldn't have like you'd be kind of like this crowd's kind of quiet. What's going on? They're just amazed. They're just like they've never seen it before. We're in the middle of Oklahoma somewhere. I don't know. They don't know, and they're just like, "What is this?" This is like 2 years after the X Games. X Games
yeah.
in like '95. So yeah, I'm just kind of riding that wave of like the X Games exploded, and it's '97, '98. '99-ish was when I graduated, and like I'm on summer tour traveling and during those times I would go to contests as well. But I didn't ever, like, I didn't go to all of them. Woody would always send us to the ones we needed to go to that would get us into like the X Games. That was kind of like the big goal, right? The big show.
Mm,
So as far as like a lot of the Metro Jams and stuff like that, or simple sessions, unfortunately didn't get to go to those a lot, just because I would be doing shows. So that was like a lot of things that people, maybe the guys that were professional at the time I was riding against, they didn't like realize that I was doing shows in between contests all that time, which was a little frustrating because I know they'd be at Woodward, right? Like learning some shit. And I'd be like riding in a parking lot somewhere in a quarter pipe box jump, you know? And
yeah.
it's like, it was kind of hard to like progress, you know? But I made do, you know, and I did what I had to do. I guess the part of my career that might be why a lot of people might not have known about it or heard about it, it just got hurt a lot, man. I couldn't
Mm,
stay healthy. I had like a ton of knee surgeries, and just from breaking my nose to my rupturing my spleen to just a lot of injuries that took a long time to heal from. And by the time, I swear to God, it was about 17, my whole career, I just got hurt a lot. You know, started out with knee surgeries and ACLs, and you know, and it just seemed to. I got healthy enough, rode, qualified, all those things, and then get hurt again at the wrong times. You know, I think I rode the first Philly X Games with a broken hand and a finger. I mean, that's why my finger's all
uh,
jacked up still to this day, because it was like 2 days before I broke it at the skate park. So I'm going, damn, you know. So I think to answer some of your questions, are like, oh, I haven't heard about you, or don't even trip, because I just, even during the time, it was hard to really stay relevant just with all the injuries. I had such this amazing like opportunity and this sponsorship and all this stuff, but at the same time, just couldn't stay healthy, man. Couldn't stay out of the hospital, and it just,
yeah.
you know, and it just it takes a toll after years. But um, just happy I was able to touch it, you know, and
W-
experience it.
The the show conversation is kind of why we even started talking at the Buckeye Bike Show, because I was talking to Dave trying to get
Yeah,
his perspective, because I don't know if anybody picked up on this from the Buckeye Bike Show video. That's only been out for like a week at this point, but I went into that just thinking about how Dave Voelker is this legend, and all these people want to show up to meet him. And then when Eddie Fiola's at the Buckeye Bike Show, there is a line of people, 10 people long, for the entire day just to talk
yeah,
to him. And all these people so excited to meet and talk to these people. Like you guys were talking to people all day long. And I knew that was a thing. And so I was going into it thinking like, I want to get Dave's perspective on why he thinks that exists, but I don't want to ask him outright. Like I want to like see him reason and go through the logic of
yeah,
like what that is and get that on video. And so I
right,
asked him, like, that was the very beginning of the video, the conversation that you kind of heard and then became a part
yeah,
of, was me saying like, you're a guest here and all these people are like excited to come and talk. Like, what do you think it is about your career that makes it this many years later all these people are still excited? And he started talking about the shows, and then that's where you came in and talked about how the shows meant so much more, and you, it seemed like
yeah,
you recognized, and I would
yeah,
love to just like have that conversation even more in depth now, because
sure,
it does seem like you fully recognize the power that is making those connections with those people in the middle of Oklahoma who aren't even cheering because they're so in awe.
yeah, yeah. It's comes down to entertainment. If you're entertaining, the reason why Eddie's got or lying around the door, because he's entertaining. You watch him ride, the tricks that he does, they not might be the most difficult tricks, but they're entertaining, and people
Mm,
love to see that, you know. And same with Dave Voelker, he was the most entertaining show rider out there. So it took me a while to realize that it's not BMX. This is entertainment
yep.
on a BMX bike. When you're in the contest scene and you're in that pro bubble, it's not that cool of a thing to go out and do shows for kids and stuff like that, or at events like that. It's not a sought out thing or a really, attractive thing. You want to be learning some tricks with your boys out in the streets, doing some rails. But, doing those shows during out those times in GT, it really taught me how much I was able to show BMX to the world in a different way, in a more relatable way as well too. And there's been kids at the skate park that I've bumped into in the past that have been like, dude, I got into BMX because you guys came to my school and did a show, and it was the first time I ever saw BMX, and because of you guys and because of you, I started riding. And I'm like, dude, you're a shredder at the skate park now. Like, I'm watching you and I'm like tripping on how good you are. And to know I had a little bit of a part in that, to show him the BMX for the first time at his school, maybe really think differently about like contests and stuff like that. Even though it's a great thing for your own career and for yourself and to make money and to make a living out of it. I never had one person come up to me and say, hey man, I got into riding because I saw you get 5th place at the X Games, whatever, like I never, maybe other dudes that got the gold medal, maybe they heard that more, but I heard it more from the shows, and that you came to my hometown, or you came to my school and you performed in front of me, and they got to actually feel it, touch it, and experience it in real life. It kind of left an impression and a mark, and it really made me feel like that was really the best way to show people BMX, and how that really, I feel like, touches people more so than an ad in the magazine or a commercial on TV or TV time on the X Games or whatever it might be, or a gold medal. Something about going to their home, going to their small town, going to their small school, and performing your talents for them, and to get that kid on a bike in the crowd later on become like, amazing rider, is just, that feels like that's giving back to BMX, and I feel that's, any pro out there, please be open to doing shows, man. It's one of the most amazing things you could do, one of the most, just, you giving back, rewarding things. Like I did bikes over Baghdad one time, and that was the most rewarding thing, to chat with all the soldiers and get their minds off the desert and what's going on out there, and to perform BMX and show them a little piece of America for an hour, just to see the appreciation in their faces was amazing. So yeah, that's what over the years has really taught me, is that shows can be a lot more powerful and impactful to the audience than you think. And I think that's why Dave Voelker and dudes like Eddie Fiola are popular, because they were amazing show riders and amazing entertainers. And Dave has taught me how to be an amazing show rider and entertainer. It was a whole different industry, especially after I stopped riding contests and started more just doing shows. I more looked at it as like, you're in the entertainment industry, you're not the BMX industry.
It's
completely different.
It's interesting to think about this, and it kind of feels like the difference between like an open and a closed loop system, where in a closed loop system, you're doing the thing and then that's feeding the beginning of the loop to have new people and more people coming in. But
right.
And to bring this to a skate park and BMX analogy, think about it, the difference between a closed bowl and an open bowl. We've all been to the skate parks, have an open bowl where you just shoot out into nowhere and you can't keep going. It doesn't keep going. And,
no flow.
The loop I'm referring to is the same way, in that what you're talking about is that the shows and that personal connection is what closed the loop. Maybe somebody saw the ad, maybe somebody saw the X Games on TV, or maybe they never saw it at all, but you guys being the show riders and being there and actually hanging out with the people closed the loop, where it was like, oh, I saw this on TV, I saw it in a magazine, I heard about it before, but here you are in front of me, closing the loop to potentially put someone else on the path. And the more people are on that path, the more people could become the show rider, that could become the person who closes the loop for other people. And I think that we're missing a little bit of that with even the show riding that happens today, because it feels like it's become more of just like a job, in that these guys are doing amazing things, but as soon as it's over, you're kind of like, all right, next thing,
right.
Not as much. And I think the reason that is a thing is because it is more thought of as a job versus what you described with GT being the main portion of that was like a reward for the best performing shops, where you're naturally showing up to a bike shop where people who ride already in the area are gonna be, and then they want to barbecue, and you make that connection a little bit more versus like, are these guys who are doing shows today at elementary schools really gonna hang out with elementary schools? That's a little, it's like, it becomes a little like, what are we doing? We're hanging out with kids, like.
Yeah. And that's the best part about it, is those moments after the show where you get to meet them and they get to shake your hand, you get to fist bump them, you get to maybe sign something for them. That little interaction makes it real, and it's cool. And I think that's, to see the kids light up at either would it be school shows or the bike shop shows, which that was more of it. Like, that was a different experience. That was kind of like the show, and the riding was just part of it. Mm-hmm. The fun thing for the bike shop was throwing a party for the riders.
Yep.
I mean, there was literally times where Dave Voelker got hurt and yet still stayed on summer tour just because the bike shops wanted to party and hang with Dave Voelker.
Yep.
Like, that was more of their main focus, was I got a cooler full of beers, I got a barbecue going, come to my house or in the back of the bike shop, and we're going to just have the best time. And that was most of summer tour for us, was hanging out with the bike shop and all the local crew and the local riders afterwards, and just chilling with them and having a night and partying with them. And that was our favorite part about it. And they would be so psyched to be like, hey, you guys want to go street riding? And we're like, yeah, dude, let's go. And they're like, oh my God, no way. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is just as fun for us as it is for you. Try to erase all the names right now. We're just hanging out as two, dudes that just like to ride bikes.
Yep.
And so we're stoked that you're into something, and they're stoked that we're riding their Jersey barrier, the only one in town, at 2 a.m. after a few beers. That was the funnest part. And the fun part about just doing the summer tours was most of it. That relationship you had with the community. And not only are we good bike riders, but we're also just dudes that want to hang out and have a good time and truly get to know you.
And that, I think, is the difference between today's, what feels like it could be described as the open loop versus that being the closed loop, is that it feels like that doesn't happen as much. And it so easily could happen where, all these companies, the great thing you could do is sell to bike shops, and everybody wants to be in bike shops. So what better incentive to make bike shops want to sell more? I've gone through that. I am a broken record with this exact pitch, but you brought an element to it that I didn't have before, where it's like, take the bike shops that do the best. And maybe that ends up being that it's just Albies and Powers and Circuit and Empire and all of these big, they're mail orders at the same time, but still send some riders on a tour to go, and you're going to have the party. And every single time that something like this does happen, it is a party. And like what I've experienced, even just this year, it's funny because there's always the other side of the story and the other side of the coin that is also somewhat understandable, is that earlier in the spring, the Cinema BMX team came through Cleveland, and it was like, it was the most legendary team of legendary teams of BMX today, where it's like, I'm about to go hang out with Corey Martinez and Garrett Reynolds and Dakota Roche and Nathan Williams and everybody who's there. And it's like, holy shit. But at the same time, I was like, all right, I can't tell anyone because they are on a filming mission, and I understand that these guys, they're all awesome, but do they really want 100 people when they find out to follow them around riding street all day long? So it's like, it's also understandable that it almost like you have to approach it with a different dynamic at the same time. But that's not to take away from the fact that I still do 100% think it could be done today, and it would help all of BMX if it did happen.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely two different worlds we're living in, now with social media. I mean, all the stories I'm talking about were pre-social media, and it was just kind of word of mouth.
Yep.
And whoever got the message that day, pre-cell phones, they were able to show up at the bike shop. If they were there, they were there, you know? Um, Funny story, it's kind of like how I met Morgan Wade for the first time. We just happened to be going through Tyler, Texas, doing a show, and he was actually like a flatlander. He had like front brakes on and everything.
Whoa.
But he was one of the dudes who, after the show, was like, "Yo, I ride. Let's go to my park." And he takes us to his park, and he shreds. And we're like, "Holy shit, this kid!" You know.
Yeah.
But it was one of those moments of like, let's just go hang out with the crew, or the local riders, and I think it was not even like a year later. Morgan Way was in the contest, and we're shoulder to shoulder on the deck together, going, "Geez, that didn't take long."
Where's your HBO film crew?
Yeah, right. But yeah, today's with social media, and if you make one post or say one thing, it's yeah, I get it, man. 100 people want to follow you around and watch you ride, and that gets a little stressful, especially if you're on a filming crew, where they want to, those guys sometimes sit on footage for a little while, to collect the best video part they could put together, and I kind of get it, where you want to keep some of those things a little under wraps, but at the same time, not shun anybody out. But I get it on both ends and both angles. But to answer your question, yeah, I think that would be always a good idea to spend a little time with it. Maybe if you do your tricks, you got your clip, maybe have a moment where you do just get together with the local kids and hit a flat rail for half an hour with them. They'd be so psyched.
Yeah, maybe it's like, I was thinking about that while we were talking. There's like, it's all problem solving. Like there's always an answer to this. And the easy answer in my mind is, if you're gonna approach this even during a filming trip, do it where, okay, maybe instead of 8 cities in a week or 8 stops, you have 4, and you're at each one for a day and a half, 2 days. Day 1, nobody knows you're in town. You're just out there filming serious riding that like is understandable that you don't want a million people around for. Sure. And then day 2 is the day where it's like, hey, we're going to blank bike shop, everybody. And then you already got it done. And then maybe that's the day where it's like the local riders who show up, they are going to be asking questions, and then they can find out like, oh, you did this at this spot. We've been going there our whole life. And then they get to be excited for the video to come out. And then the bike shop's involved. They have the barbecue, they do the party, they do it all. And you get all facets of it.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's good. Yeah, knock it down to a few, handful of trips instead of traveling, nonstop, trying to hit all these cities, get all this stuff, have a day to film, take your shit serious, and get what you need to, get done, do your job, and show up, get those clips, and then hey, we'll be at the skate park at 6 p.m. Burgers, let's go, and then you hang with the kids for a few hours before you go to the hotel and next, to the next city or whatever.
Because I just try to capture that.
That's definitely something, if you're already on the road trying to do stuff like that, might as well make some little time for the, because, you could, during those moments, make not only a fan for life for one of your riders, but also a customer for life for your brand. They're always going to want to go seek out cinema stuff because that's going to be their first memory. Dude gave me a sticker. We hung out. He taught me how to do bar spins, dude. Like, that was sick.
Yep.
And they're going to want to go out and get cinema stuff all the time. Like, that's going to be their first choice every time they build a new bike.
Every single one of those guys was so cool too. They were all awesome, and I know they'd all be down for an idea like that. Sure. And so it's just like, I'm always trying to hear, the story you're telling of those personal connections, and you recognize how impactful that is, and try to translate that to today, where it feels like there's something missing. And I think that's part of the equation.
Yeah, bring it to the community. And I love these things like the BMX Day that's on the horizon coming up here soon. It kind of just gets everybody together on an event and that's what BMX wants, man. BMX doesn't really want the big cameras and the huge sponsors. They want to keep it small. They like to keep it nichey, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it at the same time, but don't also at the same time say, hey, there's not enough to go around for everybody, because it's like, well, that's kind of something that you guys created as well.
Yeah, we
You
got to
know,
make
you
enough.
wanted to keep it small, you got it, and now you got to just, so I get it. That's why there was simple sessions. That's why there was those, metro jams, because there was we always needed a break from the big corporate, camera TV events. But we also needed those events to stay alive and for everybody to make a living, if you want to call it that.
Hmm.
I don't know why people had such a little bit more of a negative attitude about making a living, especially in my era. The word sellout got thrown around a lot. It seems like it's settled down a lot. People have definitely kind of more accepted the fact that, yeah, you got to pay bills and shit, and why not ride a bike for a living instead of working for some dickhead boss shoveling whatever, you know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
yeah, go ride your bike, and if you can pay your bills riding your bike, why not? So, but during that time, there was just that, always that, it feels like that urge to want to keep it small and keep
Hmm.
it like in your back pocket, and just keep it BMX raw and real. And I think there's always going to be something for that. But also you have to allow the big sponsors to come in and be um, marketable at the same time, and not be too shunned off of that sort of thing or turned down by it, because you got to understand, they're the umbrella of that can cast widely.
You
To
talked
where
about a really good example of this that I had never even considered whatsoever. I'd
yeah,
love to hear that again.
yeah. Um, I kind of saw it firsthand during my career. It was just I don't know, a little bit of a, there were some naysayers out there that sort of say, and some of the other older riders, or maybe the company owners, or maybe some people in the media, they just would kind of cast a little cloud about people who would, and I saw it happen with Mira firsthand, like just how he caught a lot of shit for all the sponsors. He had the Slim Jim and the,
Hmm.
1-800 Collect or MetLife. And I didn't see nothing wrong with it. I thought it was good for everybody. We need somebody like that. We need another Mira who is huge and has all the sponsors and has all the tricks and the right things, because that makes everybody around us able to make a living off of BMX. That umbrella it casts, that now 50 riders can make a living, or 100 riders can make a living comfortably, instead of it only being like maybe 20 or whatever these days. I don't know what it is now, but it just felt like back then there was a lot of people that were making a living riding on all various different pay levels, but we were all able to pay bills and buy ourselves cars and live comfortably. And I think that is a big thanks to people like Dave Mira, who brought in that recognition. I mean, it almost reminds me of, like, you get that punk rock band that you liked, or that Metallica first came out, and you had this cool band in your back pocket,
Mm.
and then that band gets pretty popular, and then, your little sister knows who they are, and they start listening to them. You're like, ah, and all of a sudden your mom knows who the lead singer's name is, you know,
Yeah.
like, when they start saying, oh yeah, how's that Dave Mira guy? And you're like, oh, well, grandma, like, how do you know him,
Yeah.
I think there was something about that, like, mentality that kind of seemed to always kind of be around in BMX, where they wanted to kind of keep it small and not too mainstream and corporate. And I think that's kind of has hurt in the long run, BMX. I think. I also think that we need someone like Mira again to be that that head figure. I mean, like a Tony Hawk for skateboarding.
Hmm.
We needed people like that. And there's a bigger conversation there, obviously, but also we can't, as BMX, if you guys want to keep this going, we got to keep it. We got to make sure we have someone like this at all times, that we don't put someone like. I just saw him go through a lot of naysaying, and I think that's a big part of maybe why he or we or BMX has ended up in where it's ended up.
Money
I can name
sustained.
5 more names, and I don't want to, because I'm tired of my friends dying, and I feel like a lot of that background noise in BMX has made an effect, and it had something to do, I think, with it. Take that with whatever you want, I don't know, but I feel like hearing someone always people that you love, whatever, in the back in the industry, or people that you respect that maybe didn't or not happy that you got a new sponsorship or you're on TV or I don't know. There was something weird about BMX and how being a sellout was a very scary thing to be
It's
and be called, right? And no one wanted to be called that, but everybody was like, I don't want to go dig ditches either, dude. So
yeah, I had heard something about a quote from Teddy Roosevelt today called "The Man in the Arena." And it's a really good one. I feel like it's relevant to what you just said and the roundabout way of like trying not to fully, say it, but like this is real shit. I've made videos before in situations where someone is being dogpiled, and it's just because BMX is so tribal and people latch so hard onto this person said this and everybody feels this way, so I feel this way too, and I hate scooters because we're just supposed to hate scooters, and Nickelback sucks because society hates Nickelback. But like that, it's the exact same bandwagon mentality, and I think about that all the time when these certain things happen, and it's because there's all these people out there that are so self-absorbed in their feelings about their opinions, and they think so highly of their opinions that it should impact and dictate what other people choose to do with their lives, that they would talk shit about someone like Mira and then combine whatever other factors are going on. And now today, like I remember hearing people like, because, I didn't start riding until 2006. I didn't know anything about anybody until I learned it. But I've heard people talk about how Mira used to catch so much shit. And it's like, now we have Dave Mira BMX best trick at X Games and everyone celebrates. So it was like, where the fuck was that whenever it was happening? It's because in the moment, it's scooters, it's mountain bikes, it's YouTube, it's having a corporate sponsorship. It's the thing that was hated on in the moment, but then years go by and people realize, oh, okay, everybody else is cool with this now, so we're cool with it. All right, we're cool. And the Man in the Arena quote is so perfect for that. And I'll just read the first sentence in it, because there's a whole thing. You could read it if you want to. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the door of deeds could have, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. And then it goes on from there. That is Mira. That is you. That is the people who are actually doing it. And all these people who are going through life hating the fact that they're at their job while you're getting followed around by HBO. Like, those are the people who think their opinions should dictate everything. And I'm hoping that this epiphany I had in perspective way of thinking about things can help with this. Is that like that counterculture? That's fine, being whatever. But just realize that without Dave Mira making Slim Jim money, without you having a camera crew, without whoever it is, without Adam LZ having a massive YouTube channel, or somebody from BMX going and being successful in mountain biking, without those things, everyone is in the same boat. There is no counterculture. It may be you against the rest of the world. That could be your counterculture. But without the big corporate side of things, or whatever the opposite end of what you're doing is, you have nothing to push back against. And you should want, if you want to be counterculture, you should want something to push against.
Yeah. I never understood the mindset either. I always thought, like, if you want that and you talking shit about that, then swing your leg over the bike and go send it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, the ramp is right fucking there.
Yeah.
Go do it. If you want all that shit, go do it. But you didn't send it. But you know who did? Mira sent it. Kevin Robinson sent it. Jay Miron, those guys, Corey Nastasio, TJ Lab, and Ryan Nyquist. They all went out and sent it and made huge careers out of it and did something bigger and better afterwards. I could go on and on about who, and so if you want to complain about, I think it comes down to just, it's really petty in BMX. It's an unfortunate thing And it's a little bit of that, like, well, it sounds like you want to be there, right? You sounds like you want, or you deserve what you think, you deserve all those sponsors that guy has. You deserve all the money that guy has. Well, then go swing your leg over a bike and go send it. But you
Mm.
didn't. I had a chance to go learn double flips and try to get on top of the podium, but that was kind of a gnarly trick. I don't know if I wanted to go send it. So
Yeah.
I got fucking fifth place,
Yeah.
and I had to deal with it. And I had to realize that, fuck, dude, if I want to make it into the top three, I got to go fucking send it.
Yeah.
And it's nothing's, and so to be so petty and to have these type of points of views in BMX that I believe have really hurt the sport. And it's really made a lot of the bigger sponsors, I think, and corporates go, you know what? I think we're good. It seems like a lot of people are, sometimes those words cut to the core, and
Yeah.
you don't know what people are going through too in the background. And one of the things that shocked me the most was there was a time I was, from the GT days, then we went to Giant, and there's a whole nother probably episode with that. But there was a moment of where Giant was going to just be more of a show team, and I decided to go as a free agent, and I got on a road trip with Gary Young. Thank you for inviting me onto he had a props, like a Road Fools, but like the Team Young.
Mm.
So it was me and Gary and Morgan Wade and Aaron Ross and Brian Kaczynski and great crew. And Walter was filming, and we happened to go from Texas to Toronto. It's gonna stop and we stopped at Greenville and saw Mira there. And this is around 2005, 6. And that was when I noticed that he, on his wall ride, he had everybody over, and it's one of those big sessions where you see him ripping and doing the foofing. It was like we were at that. That was that session. It was like the FBM guys were in town, and I just remember seeing a lot of trippy little sayings on the wall ride, and I could just feel this man's pain. I
Mm.
felt like he was going through some shit, and I feel like what we are just kind of talking about, where it really does affect some people, and they're, you keep hearing it, and you keep hearing the people just keep putting him through the ringer. I mean, you could just feel his emotions on the wall, and that how he might have been burnt from people that he might have trusted, or that a lot of things are just for this money, and how that just it was kind of a trip. You ever get a chance to see some of those. It definitely left me a little shook. I mean, I was obviously stoked to be riding with him and had that amazing session with him and all those guys in Greenville. But I remember pulling out of there, going to the next city, going, dude, did anybody kind of read the wall and what was said? And everybody kind of had the same feeling, like, yeah, it was. And I just, there's something about it where I feel like we're all at fault here,
Mm.
like everybody who had something to say about his career negatively, or have a little bit of a bear to cross. So I think with that,
Yeah.
I actually saw it personally, being on all the contests and stuff, and just hearing it, and it just it's sad to me because I just feel like we need another guy like that. And we do have big riders. We have amazing guys out there, and between Anderson and Garrett Reynolds and those guys who've actually had pretty fucking long careers. I thought I had like a long career with like 8 years or 9 years of competing, and you got like dudes like Gary Young and I mean, these guys are riding and competing at that high level still, but I feel like there hasn't been that main figurehead like Mira has brought to the sport. You know what I'm saying? So,
And what you had talked about at the Buckeye Bike Show when you brought him up was something that, like, I had never considered in my life. It was just genius way of thinking about it, because it only makes sense, is that there's these companies at the peak Mira where he's, $50,000 sticker Mira.
yeah,
Where there's these companies who are like, we want a guy like that, but we can't afford Mira. So now
Yes.
they're going to somebody else. And that's the umbrella that you're talking about.
yeah,
It's hard to like conceptualize that until you actually explicitly say it. Like, they can't afford someone like Mira, but they want him because of the TV time, the contest. I mean, that dude was as close to an A-list celebrity BMX rider as we have ever and will ever get. And
Yeah.
that just makes sense that they would go to somebody else if they want to invest.
Yeah, absolutely. They can't afford the top 3 guys, so you got to go from 4th to 10th place guys, right? And then those dudes are going to, hey, and then they want to invest in the extreme sports world and get a guy on their team and as a company and to expand their product through that avenue.
Yep.
Then they were able to afford dudes like us that weren't, bringing in the medals every weekend, but every once in a while you get on the podium, like, hey, I had a good contest, or, like things went together that time. Or so, yeah, it made us have a career that the dudes that were, maybe not the top 3 guys, but were getting into the finals and still doing all the hard work and doing, and showing up and competing and qualifying, were able to still, and even the guys who, I would say, even there's so many riders, even the guys who didn't make the top 10, they would maybe barely be making the finals, would still make a pretty good living, being able to show up at contests and, just be in the arena in front of those eyes with everybody loved the stickers and the sponsors and the, the big jerseys and all that stuff. So, and it was quite a time in BMX, and I'd never seen it quite like that before, and I think it was a very special moment, and I feel very lucky that I got to experience that moment in BMX when it was just so easy to make a living at it in a way, what is compared now. And but at the same time, I'm hearing people like Fudger saying like that's kind of like a forgotten era of BMX, and I think that's a sad deal. But I also understand it because it's just generation and how fast time goes by. But at the same time, I feel like it's a bummer time because it was a really fun time at BMX. I think it was everybody can kind of relate to it a little bit. The tricks weren't so crazy hard where you think like, oh, I can never learn that like how it is today. It was a lot more relatable. I felt like it was reachable, and it was an amazing time that everybody had some really fun sponsors. And yeah, we had, I don't think I bought shoes or paid for clothes for a good 15 years of my life.
That's awesome.
It's crazy.
I think I've kind of figured out a way to rationalize and say, I guess rationalize the best word, the difference between back then and today and kind of how it got here. And you'd be a great person to reflect on this. So what I think a real difference is that in those moments, what year would you say the peak of what you're talking about is?
For me, it was like early 2000s.
So you would just say 2008 does that seem okay?
I think even up until about 2012, 13, 15, 14, like as soon as I think there's some even good times right there. And I think around that time, it started kind of getting a little weird. I think social media, when that came out and you're able to not have to you can make your own stuff, not have to hook up with a photographer or videographer, and you could just create your own content and go do whatever you want to do and start your own platform. And I think that's kind of where it all shifted money wise. I feel like the contest and stuff,
So the theory that I've come up with is that in those peak moments and leading up to that, you had the big TV networks and the big companies who were organizing the X Games and the Do Tour and those big things. And so the companies doing that were not BMX companies. And so the people responsible for BMX being put in front of the mainstream were those people. Yeah. And at the same time, the companies are just worrying about selling their bikes and selling their parts. They don't have to think about getting BMX in front of the mainstream because these TV networks and all of this they're doing it for us. We don't even have to think about it. It's probably not even a conscious thought that anyone's having because it's just happening. And so as that starts to fade, because naturally the way mainstream anything works is as soon as there's something else, we're like, all right, we're shifting resources away to this new thing that's popular, where we go from fidget spinners to squishy toys. It's that thought process. As that's happening, BMX companies and BMX as a whole, who didn't have to care about promoting BMX to the mainstream, promoting our culture to anybody else, is still just continuing to do the same thing we've always done. We make the videos, we compete, the companies sell their stuff. They don't have to think about the mainstream, but as the mainstream pulls out, we're not shifting. We're still doing the exact same thing, even though the audience that we didn't have to work for as much because it was given to us by the people organizing this aren't there. Yeah. And so naturally you have this decline. And as BMX as a whole still hasn't figured out that you have to reach people who don't ride to grow BMX or even sustain it as people fall out, it's naturally going to see that decline. And you lived it. So does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I think you're right. You know, you do have to get this product out in front of it. I think there's been a little bit of, I guess, a lull here in the United States. But what I'm seeing in other countries is that it's growing. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because all our manufacturing's over there, or everything's just, we sold it all over there, and it's just, that's where they're making it now, and it's growing. Or if it's the Olympics and how now these countries have to put together a team, and now they're taking it a little more seriously, and that's growing in other countries faster than it is here. But I feel that there is a disconnect right now between what's going on and BMX. I feel like it's kind of drifting off in its own little bubble, and it's becoming a very niche thing. And kids are not really too sure if they want to get into it or not, right? You're getting at a point where I need to train, and I need to have a foam pit. I need to have an airbag. I mean, shows are becoming cookie cutter. I do not like the airbag. The shows were, because that was the danger part. You could still crash and get hurt. You need to show the sport in every aspect. I know you have to do 100 shows, whatever, but at the same time, you can't just, it just kind of takes it a little bit of that entertainment value out of it. So I feel like BMX in a whole has kind of detached itself. They wanted kind of all the corporate sponsors out. They wanted it to be like, go away, we want to have our own, and now they do. And I feel like there's now a ton of rider-owned brands, which is great. I think that's what should happen. We should take over our own sport, but now it's saturated as it all can be, and no one's really making that big. I mean, that piece of pie now, everybody gets a really small sliver, just because as a whole, BMX just not as popular. Yes, there's just more riders as there ever been. It's growing in other countries, but here in the United States, I am seeing everybody on an e-bike.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pedal a bike anymore. That's becoming a specialized thing to do now. Like, oh, you're into that BMX stuff. And BMX is very like, we don't want a whole lot of new technology in our bikes. Keep it simple, pedals, cranks, a chain, like, you know, you think about talking about, I mean, I saw other sides of this industry while working at Haro for 9 months as a product manager, and kind of seeing that side of things. And that was very, very eye-opening. And it might shock you to the core to tell you that a lot of these corporations or companies don't really make a whole lot of money at sponsoring riders. They don't really make a whole lot of money at riders who have signature parts. It's kind of a big charity, and it really made me think how lucky and how fortunate I was to even be sponsored in the first place, because it's basically a money draining thing for a company from the start. They realize they need to kind of have something in the game to stay relevant, otherwise you're going to be kind of a ghost in the industry. But as far as companies making money off of selling their top riders signature handlebars, it's not happening. They're making money selling kids bikes that people are getting into it. So that's where we really need to, like, what we're going back to our conversation, is that you need to create new customers, you need to create new riders, and we need to get BMX in front of those eyes again. And it's definitely created a disconnect. I think social media obviously has a lot to do with that as well, because everybody's in your own bubbles now. But going back to your point, you know, we got to get back to showing BMX and in front of those people's eyes again, that are the new riders, are the new customers. You
social
know,
media is
we're
like,
losing them. We're losing our kids, man. Our kids need to get out and ride bikes more, bro.
yeah. And I think that comes back to the open and closed loop thing where the contest is an open loop because it's just the event that happens and the riders go to it, they compete, they do the thing, then they come home and then they're training, they go back to the next contest, and it's not. I think this is where X Games League is going to make a much bigger impact on that side of things than a lot of people might realize, just in the fact that rather than it just being this singular event that happens, then becomes the past, and whatever viral views we can get from whatever crazy thing happens, we get in the moment, and then it fades away and people just go to the next one. It's purely entertainment. Like what you were saying before, it's more than, it used to be more than just entertainment because it was you entertain the people, then you connect with them. Now it's all, the majority of what people see from BMX is purely just the entertainment. I saw a crazy clip on Instagram, I keep scrolling. I saw it on TV, I watched the next thing. I went to the contest, and then it was it. But I think the X Games League, and if more things like it show up and they go through like not just the top level, but they have lower level leagues to it, it creates a story to follow, which is more than just that singular event 3 times a year. And then they have larger people who actually understand how merchandising and marketing of people works, where you're gonna go and do an event like Garrett Reynolds just did that race thing that happened somewhere in California, and he's doing
right here in San Diego, actually. He was doing some stuff. Go ahead.
That was so sick, where I saw him doing that, and he's doing a truck driver over this race car, and the driver is right there too. And then I saw another thing, I don't remember where it was or how it was live or what, but he was in a Q&A with somebody in a Red Bull, big marquees behind him with Garrett Reynolds huge on the screen. And it's like, now you have this way for it to be, Garrett is a Red Bull athlete, he's showing his skills, then he's being interviewed, and whoever's there for the race or is tuning in for the race thing finds a new thing, like they're seeing it in a place they wouldn't have seen it before. And I think what I'm getting at with the whole X Games League point I'm trying to drive at is that I think that's going to create more opportunities like this Red Bull thing that I'm describing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I believe you're true. And I don't know if you watch Supercross or into motocross at all, but I think BMX, we need to take a little bit of lesson from them. Have a pit party, right? Before the event starts, have a pit party, man. Have your bike out, have your t-shirts out, sell some shit, have stickers, like have your, come by, get an autograph, take a picture, touch the bike, lift it up, see how heavy it is, that kind of shit. They get the people to come in, meet and greet with the guys, with the riders. And then you create fans out of them. Like, you got some people coming in, you're like, I don't know anybody about this rider. And you meet somebody that you thought you wouldn't maybe like or know or whoever. And you're like, that guy was so nice. And then he goes out and competes. And now you root for that dude. You're like, dude, that guy's so rad. He gave me a free, t-shirt or whatever. And now he's out there shredding. So then you create like a fan for life, and I feel like going back to some of those Vans Bowl contests where I feel like they were really had something good going on there, being on the beach and all those great contests with all these new eyes and new audience watching that just happened to be at the beach that day and going, oh, there's a fucking contest. Let's go check it out. And for the mentality of it being like, oh, it's kind of more of a bowl contest. Like, we're just kind of carving around, man. We're doing turn downs and tabletops, which I love. I get it. It's beautiful, right? There's an art to it. But it's kind of tough for an audience member to figure out why the dude doing tabletops just got first place versus the dude that just did like double tail whip gap across the whole park in the front flip, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of saw that go down one time, and I feel like those little things like that hurt our sport. You got people there stoked to watch BMX, but then the dude that they cheered loudest for got fifth, and they're like left confused. Like, what? Why didn't that guy? Because if that dude won, that made everybody stand up and cheer and clap, then you probably would have created some fans in the crowd. And they might want to go maybe buy your bike or buy your t-shirt or just invest in Daniel Sandoval or whatever and be like, that guy is pretty cool. I'm going to check him out and watch the X Games just because of him.
Yeah.
You know, they might have not have turned on the fucking X Games, but now they have that one little bit more of a rating because that dude actually that deserved to won. Yeah, right. So those are the little things at the contest that I kind of were annoyed after my career of contests and stuff that I would constantly see the dudes, which I totally get. I love, but sometimes you got to reward what made the crowd stand up and clap. You know what I'm saying? Like the 50 dudes on the deck understood the gnarly transfer turn down. We all understood it. The 50 dudes on the deck get how hard that is. But the people in the crowd that maybe not have ridden before, they just want to be entertained. And they're confused by the guy who did a double flare get fourth place.
And
you know what I'm saying? So I think there's another reason why you have a disconnect.
The open and closed loop thing, to come back to that. And talking about problem solving like I did earlier, maybe you don't give him first, but you give him the crowd favorite award and you do something and you bring somebody from the crowd. I don't know. You just do something. Yeah. And I'm not like, I'll come back to the stuff we're talking about and all these things. And we're just like on our soapbox here talking. It's like, the whole point of all of this conversation is to talk to someone who has lived it, who recognized the importance and impact of what you were doing in the moment, and now you're seeing things, looking back and comparing to what you grew up and you did. And I'm not like, I don't feel like either of us is trying to be up on a soapbox saying anything should be any certain way. I'm just trying to bring attention to like these aspects of things. It's like, I feel like this is why things are a certain way. And if we just, my whole thing is just like, be open-minded, be a little more open-minded. That's it.
Yeah. I think we're both watching a sport that we love and fell in love with and that we care about really dearly kind of shoot itself in its own foot a lot. And you don't know why. And you're just confused. And you're like, well, why do we, okay, well, it's just one of those things where I want to see it do so well. I want everybody to make a living like I did and have that opportunity to be able to experience that lifestyle. I mean, it's amazing. Who wouldn't? It's a dream come true. But when you see it being harder and harder for that to happen, and for the sport to kind of get in its own way a lot, it is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
And I'm not, who am I? Right. I mean, there's reasons why I kind of stood back in the background because I just realized like, I didn't maybe become the figurehead in BMX to have that kind of power. If I had maybe a little bit more of accomplishments under my belt and had more years in me and maybe was a little bit more on that level of like a Hall of Fame type of rider, then maybe I'd start. But at the same time, who am I? I'm just in the background. But there's reasons why I kind of stayed this way. Reasons why after my riding contest career, I just decided to do shows for like 12 years and just enjoy it because I needed to get back to loving riding again. And it really was because of the shows that I got to like get that joy again. I feel like the contests and being that in that kind of like that pro bubble kind of drains you a bit, because there's a lot of noise in the background that tends to get to you. And then a lot of times you just, when I had that opportunity to go, all right, well, I think I don't got the tricks for this anymore. I'm getting hurt all the time. I think I'm just going to stick to doing shows. I really fell in love with it again. And I feel like that's kind of like, why we're talking like this is because we both love the sport. And I love what you do and how you make it so much like it's fun, right? All the things that you do is just straight pure fun. And I feel like that's what we're missing, man. Hey, fun first. If you start to get too fucking serious with this shit and you guys, it really starts to like get it, whose trick's doing what, and they get really cliquey and really petty. And you got these little tight groups of riders that are really, and it's a lot of like female drama shit. I just, that's what, right? It's like, that's where it goes. All right, guys, we're fucking grown men on kids' bikes. Just fucking have fun. How serious can you take yourself? 45 years old on a 20-inch fucking bike. Like,
yeah.
What are we doing?
And so,
fun, dude.
And take that a step further, because I say that kind of stuff all the time too.
Yeah.
Not saying that anybody should change anything they do. What I'm saying is, don't shun the guy who is doing the fun. Let's celebrate the people who are out there having the most fun possible just as much as we celebrate the people who are doing other things, and at least not shut them down whenever they're out there. Like BMX has this way of picking the Eric Elstrands and the Tate Roskellys, and then it's like, all right, these are the guys who are allowed to just show themselves having fun, being goofy, doing weird stuff. Everybody else, sorry, you didn't make the cut. You're going to have to work harder for varsity next year because you didn't make the creativity fun cut, and you just have to try and be on the normal team now. And if we could just accept, and I think things have gotten drastically better in that regard. That's
good. That's good to hear, because I'm a little bit of an outsider now listening on this, and it's like, oh, these are just all like, it's very reminiscent.
Perfect example, actually, to give you context to like make that all make sense, is that I posted a video recently where I was at Ray's, and me and this dude were about to go at the same time, and he looked up, and I was like, I stopped because I instantly saw, and he's like, I was like, no, dude, go ahead. And he's like, nope, you go. And I was like, I'm not going. Like, you go. And he's like, nope. And then I was like, all right. And I did the rock, paper, scissors thing. And we played rock, paper, scissors. And so, like, that was the part of the video that got people to watch. And then at the very end of it, I do the dumbest trick. I'm doing an alley-oop fakie double peg grind to this wall, because the quarter pipe is up against this little wall that's only like railing height. And I just jump off my pedals and hang my feet off the edge of the wall like I'm in a Superman position, but my feet are hanging there. And it's just the silliest, dumbest thing ever. And I didn't post it on Instagram because I was like, I know this is silly, and like, I just don't, whatever. But I posted on Facebook and YouTube as a short, and nobody BMX wise really had anything to say. The first couple days of it being up, it didn't really, like, it got some views. It was just another video. And it was like, okay, the BMX world doesn't care. They know I'm goofy. Like, they're not talking shit. But then it started to get a lot of views. And between Facebook and YouTube, it got millions of views. And the normal people are just relentless. Like, the normal people, even to this day, like, while we were doing this podcast, it probably got comments from people talking crap about how literally one of the top comments on there said something and referred to it as the gay stall. And it's got thousands of likes on this comment. And it doesn't like affect me at all, but I'm using this as an example of BMX being more accepting, in that I did that, and the BMX community kind of just kept scrolling, but the normies of the world were like, what the hell are you doing? Right. And so then from there, I'll take it even a step further and show how BMX is like becoming more accepting, I feel, is that I notice these hate comments, and I think it's hilarious. And me being the like push back against that person I read them, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go do it more. And so I recorded myself doing the same trick, but at my local skate park on a slightly different railing setup. And I did use my green screen setup, and I read a comment from someone that said something like, never do that again, ever. And I read it with the original video playing in the background. And then, but as soon as I get done saying that, I play some audio that's like, hey, you want to see something cool? And then it's like, no. All right, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And then it cuts to the new one, and the BMX community of people commented back on that one and thought it was hilarious. Right. Granted, there's a lot of people who would have never
out the formula.
But like, there's a lot of people who, you know, might be hardcore street people that never even saw any of them, that might have talked shit. But what I'm getting at is like, I think the BMX community as a whole is becoming more accepting.
That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, we got to take ourselves less serious, man. Like, it's okay. It's okay. You know, if you don't get squarely on the pedals and a little bit on the cranker. Let's just calm down. We're all good, dude. We pulled the trick.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff like that. I think it's gotten pretty, you know, opinionated about how perfect everything has got to be or look, right? It has got to have a certain look or certain way you roll out of a 180 or a fakie. I don't know, but it's interesting. Um, but it's also it's nice to hear that it's be more accepting. I like to hear that. I want it to be so much better.
Yeah.
And I wish we're having a conversation where, hey man, everything's legit in BMX and everything's going well, which I think it is. I think there's nothing dead about it. I think there's going to be a lot of new riders always. I think the riding is always going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's any pro out there that's listening to this, because I can't wait till because who the hell am I, right? And any comment that's coming my way, I'll probably agree with them. Like, yeah, you're right. But I just want to let you know, any rider out there is in that pro scene. That is the best bubble to be in. It will always be the best bubble to be in. To get free bikes and to see the world and to get paid and be with your friends and travel and to ride BMX, that is always the best part of BMX. Shows are second best, and I wish you luck if you try to be in on the industry side of things, because that will open your eyes to how lucky a professional rider's career is and how much that company is investing in that rider. So any of your riders out there, if you get a free frame, handlebar, bike, whatever, grips, just know it's not free. That company paid for it. There was a transaction that was made. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's receipts. It came out of an account. And so be very thankful for anybody who's getting flow or whatever it might be, from a full ride sponsorship to the smallest of, maybe a bike shop helping you out. Just be super, super thankful, because they're not really making money or will ever really make money. It's really just about BMX and being a part of that pro scene. That's what's keeping it alive, is the love for these companies to just keep it going. And so I want to hear it's getting better, man. I like that. It's be, I want to hear things are on the up and up. And I think the Olympics are good for it. I think it brings a different, crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But it also brings a whole nother aspect to it. I feel it's very it's like very, I don't know, there's a lot of different specialties now, right? And there's there's street riders, your park riders, your X Games guys, your gold medalist dudes. There's it's all over the place a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like any exposure is good exposure, whether it be bad or good, whatever. I think anything to get it out there now. Just get kids on bikes. I mean, we could talk about the Todd Lyons thing and what he's done with SE bikes a little bit. I think just getting people on bikes in general, whether you love it or hate it, it's not BMX, but it's definitely its own little thing. And
Yeah.
it's definitely gotten like its own community going, and it's just people who love to ride bikes. But he's selling bikes. He's getting people on bikes. Is it BMX? No, but it's people who love to ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, talk
And
about an accepting group of people. It doesn't matter what kind of bike you're on or who you are. You can jump into those rides and no one's going to question you at all.
Yeah. And going back to your point, it's like that's a good example of how you pivot in BMX. We got to pivot a different way when it comes to bringing more contests to these guys. I from an outsider looking in now, I feel like I'm only watching the Toyota triple challenges and what else is there now besides X Games? And I feel like the X Games are people's backyards and shit. Like, and then I don't know, last year was like in a neighborhood. Like, it was weird.
Yeah, X Games
was weird.
X Games was kind of in a transitionary period because they got new ownership. This year, I think will be better. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. The triple challenge thing, I still call it Toyota Triple Challenge. It hasn't been Toyota behind sponsoring it for like years. I still find myself calling it that, but it's just I think it's a monster triple challenge or something. It's part of Supercross. It's whatever that whole thing is, but there's not a lot. There's feasts, then there's X Games, the triple challenge, there's the USA BMX freestyle stuff, the Nebraska BMX series is a thing. There's not a ton in terms of it, but Um, with that,
That's insane.
I want to go back
Yeah.
because you had mentioned, I want to go back to the Mike Parenti career side of things. You had mentioned you quit competing and then you rode shows for 12 more years. So like,
Yeah.
when did you stop competing? Around what time?
2006.
You kind
I
of cut
think I
out
think
there.
2005 was my like last out, and those were like another qualifier, right, for like an X Games or Gravity Games type event, and that was kind of right in the transition of like GT into the Giant, and then I remember Woody at the time was like, "All right, like good." He was trying to be like, "You're gonna make a good run here for the contest, otherwise we're kind of like gonna basically put you on just doing shows." I was like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh. So I took it a little bit more seriously, and he gave me some breaks off of doing some shows, and I actually did some trips out to Woodward, and actually went out and stayed with Ryan Nyquist for a week or two just to kind of be around it,
Yeah.
and so about that 2005 area was the last time I like competing. I remember 2006 started is when I decided to leave, just because Giant was going in a whole different direction. They weren't really going to be around any longer, anyways, and they were just going to focus more on shows. And I was more like, I still got some more in the tank. I felt like I was like 25, 26. Felt like I was at my prime, and I was doing dirt and street contests at the same time and all this stuff. So it was really like, so I kind of left all the sponsors. That was kind of like at the time, a lot of the sponsors were backing out too. Everybody was starting to feel a little bit of the squeeze of things were starting to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And I made an opportunity to go on this trip with Gary Young, a props trip. And during that time, I blew my good knee out, my left knee, and that was just like the worst timing. Kind of going back to my career, where I was like, man, every time it's like something at the worst times I got hurt, and it was like always like a big injury. I always wish that, man, what I could have done if I would have stayed healthy, but it is what it is. I'm glad I had the opportunity, but I blew out my left knee at that time, both ACL and PCL. So I kind of hung out for the rest of the trip, made it to Toronto, Metro Jam, and that was 2006. And I flew home. And when I got picked up, my wife said that she was pregnant with our first child.
Oh
I,
man.
I have three now. But that was kind of one of those moments of like, oh shit, like I have just left my sponsor. Now I just got hurt and my wife's pregnant. And that was like a big moment of like reality of, wow, I think my career is over contest wise,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of didn't really know. I kind of put all my eggs in a basket and took a chance and then just got hurt at the wrong time. So that's kind of, I still was trying to compete and wanted to keep it going. But with those circumstances, I kind of like, all right, this is the path I guess I'm going in now. So I didn't try to fight it there. And I kind of did the stay at home dad, then started doing shows about a year or two later once my daughter had like some daycare,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to get back on the road with Dave Voelker and some local guys like Robert Castillo, Dave Voelker, and work with them during their and help out with their shows. And we mostly just kind of traveled around the southern United States, California really, and some just drove around, did a bunch of shows at schools and stuff like that. And I did that for a long, long time. Every once in a while, I'll do a big trip here and there, but really kind of became like for a while there, like a guy, like a go-to guy to go do shows, and I would just get kids from the skate park. I could go to like the Claremont skate park here in San Diego and grab like Brendan Workus or there's like Parker, or yeah,
Yeah.
Parker Heath and and a few Blake would also. Anyways, I use those guys to do shows, kind of scout them out, and kind of did that for about 12 years, and it was just a way to. And there was the moments I was thinking about maybe returning, making a comeback, right? Like around 2012, 13. And I think it was around the time that like Josh Heino was trying to come back again and not like I just saw him like crash, and I thought, fuck, that really doesn't look like fun anymore. I was like, oh, like I got so pumped up, like, yeah, I should make a comeback too. And then I was like, oh man, like maybe I don't want to get hurt again, just because I felt like I was so accident prone. So
Yeah.
doing the shows and doing all the tricks I know how to do in my sleep was more of my style, I guess. And it was actually enjoyed that part of riding in BMX. Like, you're kind of off in your own little world. No one really knows what you're doing, but you're working every day, riding bikes and staying dialed on your bike, and making a pretty decent living. So that's kind of how I transitioned from the contest to just doing shows. And at first it sucked, but I didn't fight it too much, just because I realized, we had like Daniel Diers and Scotty Kramer they were getting so good, and these guys were putting down runs, and I'm coming off of like an injury, and it's 2007. I haven't ridden my bike in like almost a year, and I'm thinking, what, like these it was a whole nother landscape.
Yeah.
But at the same time, part of me wishes I maybe I went about it wrong. Maybe I should have been more of a style cat, you know. Maybe I shouldn't have tried all these triple this and double that.
I think you
Should have
did
just, that's when I got
exactly.
hurt. I should have just done like 360 look backs and made it look good. And maybe I would have been all right. Just
Yeah.
save my body. Some of these dudes, think about it, man. I could name like 5 riders right now that made a really long career in BMX without ever doing a backflip in a contest run.
Yeah. It's pretty
So
awesome.
it is awesome. But for guys who got hurt all the time, maybe I did it wrong, man.
Nah, I think you did exactly what you were
Yeah.
supposed to.
Should got better at my tabletops. But nah, it's just it is what it is. I'm appreciative that I had the opportunity to do it again, and it was cool. It was the best times of my life. Keep looking back at it, and some mornings you wake up thinking, oh my god, that one time when
Mm-hmm.
some pretty fun horror stories, that's for sure. So
What do you got going on these days, since you're not
yeah,
riding
these
shows
days
anymore?
I got 3 kids that are one in college, one in going to be a senior in high school, and we started over. I got a 7-year-old, so I kind of do a half of a stay-at-home dad to some online trading in the morning, do some option trading stuff, and then also have a condo that I bought during my career BMX that I take care of as a landlord, and I do it all that myself and take care of my tenants and stuff. So that keeps you pretty busy. And then on top of that, my wife being a most amazing woman and killing it in the corporate world. One of the funny things we kind of joke about when we first got it, I mean, we started dating like as soon as my career started, kind of deal. And so she's been with me through the whole thicket of everything. And it was one of those best investments I've ever made. I kind of joke about because at the time, it was paid her way to finish her college and stuff like that. And then now, all these years got gone by, she ended up being the one that is the breadwinner. So,
That's a good investment.
yeah, I was like, yeah. So
It's a good trade.
she's the one she's the one that's killing it. I'm the one that just kind of makes sure everything's running smoothly in the household and at our rental properties, and then I do my little trading for my own little pocket change kind of deal. and
That's cool.
and I still ride. I still go to the skate park locally here. It's called Poway Skate. It's a nice little cement park. I just kind of dive in for a few laps, and I've been getting into the last 4 years now or 5 years. So Summit, there's like a ski resort up in Big Bear, California, and they do an amazing job with during the summer of having mountain bike trails. And I don't know if you ever got a chance to mountain bike, but you take the chairlift up and you just ride down, and there's berms and jumps for like 4 miles, and all the way just zigzagging through the hill. And then some are pretty fun and big, and some obstacles, some hips, and it's a lot of BMX just with a full suspension bike. I know a lot of the BMX people out there are gonna mountain bikes, but the one thing I've seen in that sport going up to there is that it reminds me of BMX how it used to be in the 90s. Everybody's just stoked. They don't care about what your trick is. If you're like on the mountain and riding, everybody's like stoked for you. And there's dudes in their 60s riding to little kids riding, so there's a big So that's kind of what I've been up to, man. A little bit of mountain biking, still riding BMX, and family, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I did all right. After the Haro deal, I was pretty satisfied with just kind of walking away from BMX and saying, I just want to get back to just loving riding and just kind of keep it my own and not have any skin in the game anymore. And I'm just glad I got to experience all the avenues that BMX had to offer, and I'm really appreciative of all of it. Met some most amazing friends and lifetime like family members.
Yeah,
So
got you where you're at.
yeah, it's cool. Also, kind of cool to kind of go under Volker's wing and kind of, I don't know, I guess hang out with all the old school dudes throughout all the years and doing those old school reunions and kind of being on that side of the BMX. I kind of saw all sorts of different sides of it, from
Yeah.
the top tier pro bubbles to like the old school dudes that still shred, like Ron Wilkerson and shit.
Dude, right? He still kills
Dude,
it.
he would hit mega ramp. He'd call me up to go hit mega ramp because he was turning 50 and he wanted to like go like 50 feet in the air or some shit, do like a 27-foot. So we would we'd do these private sessions at Woodward West to go hit this mega ramp. And this, I kid you not, dude, like he was 50 years old, and I give him about a good 18, 20-foot air on that ramp. I mean, he blasted that fucking
That's
thing.
so crazy.
I was like, yo, he didn't jump too well, but once he got over the jump, it was like the 40 years of vert riding took over. It was cool. So I don't know. I got to see and ride with a lot of different dudes, and that was cool. And then I miss them all. I miss all you guys. If you're and anyone is gonna watch or not, but
I'm sure you'll hear from a few
I think
people.
your younger crowd are like, younger crew is probably like, what? Who's this?
You
old
said
dude?
that earlier, and I didn't want to cut you off or like
But you not
deflect.
so much.
It's
Okay.
it's honestly a very wide mix of people. Like,
Oh, good.
there's not.
Good.
It's not just like, just young
Yeah.
people or just older people. It's a huge range, and I think that's because of the variety of things that I make, and I've just become okay with the fact that like certain things I make are for this group of people and certain things
Yeah.
I make are for that group of people. And so like there are a lot of people who just assume that it's a bunch of kids that watch my stuff, but I would guess that there's probably a majority of people. You could say 20 and over would be a safe thing that most people are, but you could even
good.
say 30 and over would be more than half.
Oh, good. I know. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
So
'Cause,
you'll hear
yeah.
from people,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. I love that. Yeah, that's good. That I'm feeling so old, and you know how it's such a young sport. It's so when you
It's
get
getting
sport,
older and
you
older
start-
though.
Yeah, they're staying in it.
Yeah, we're finding out how old you can really be and
Yeah.
ride. Do you
Yeah.
you ever get a chance to hit some dirt jumps?
I haven't in a little bit. The only thing I've really been that's getting close to that is hitting the mountain bike trails that are like basically dirt jumps.
Yeah.
But there's a park in San Marcos now, not too far from here, called the Bradley Bike Park, and that's got like city built dirt jumps that you might have seen on social media before.
What about Sweetwater? That can't be super
yeah.
far.
Yeah, that's not too far. It's a little bit further than, but yeah, so I'll pop out to those. That's like the closest thing, I guess. But as far as like some backwoods trails, I haven't done that in a little while.
Well, if you
Yeah.
ever want to, I've got
Yeah?
some trails
Okay.
here in Ohio that I know that when you look at and you think about trails in modern BMX, you're like, oh God, downhill, clay, scary.
Right.
Our trails are not
Yeah.
like that. They're on flat ground. They're very forgiving. As long as you can pump, you're good.
Yeah,
And
I'm
if
all
you ever
set.
want to come ride,
yeah.
Always.
Damn, I should have brought my bike when I was in Ohio. I had no idea.
well, I would have
Damn
been.
it.
I live 2.5 hours from where
Okay.
that was at. So,
Yeah.
but hey,
Yeah, I love it, man. And I love what you're doing, man. I think that what you're doing is great as well. And getting out to all these, and just having conversations with people like this, and sparking some conversations that maybe need to have in BMX, and not always be so serious all the time, I guess. But I like what you're doing, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank
And,
you.
It's cool. So keep it up. I almost look at it as like kind of like the motto of our conversation. I think the more if hate or whatever you might, you're doing something right, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you get a reaction, right? It's what you want, whatever it is. So whether it be good or bad, you're getting a reaction out of somebody. So that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
if anybody wanted to check out, if you ever post anything anywhere, would it be Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I kind of been staying a little shy on social media. I kind of tend to have an addictive personality, so you get kind of
It's
into it,
fair.
and then I'm like, dude, I gotta stop, man.
Yeah, it's
So,
fair.
same thing with like like I quit drinking a few years ago and stuff like that. Just starting to think about all the, I've been touring and getting into bars since I was 16, shit like, I gotta, you know, so that I definitely have that personality in me where I realize I get too heavy into something, so I gotta stop. I
Well,
get too good.
it's a good thing that you're able to recognize it.
Yeah, yeah, right. To stop and recognize it, but yeah, that's another BMX trick, right? All our sore bodies have a few beers afterwards, right?
Well, people,
Yeah,
if you want to see when he eventually posts again, Mike Parenti BMX on
yeah.
Instagram. And what'd you say that local park was?
I like to go ride the Poway Park. Is the cement place I ride, but Bradley Bike Park is the dirt jumps, and that's up in San Marcos. And they're actually building a lot of. If you're in the Southern California area, in the Temecula, Menifee, and all those Inland Empire, they call it, areas, are building a lot of those trail parks now. That's become like the new cement park, is building dirt jump
Mm-hmm.
trail parks. So they have like a Gale Webb one up there now, and yeah. So there's actually a little bit of a road trip I need to do. I haven't ridden all of them yet. So,
So
but
you might see him there if you.
I might see me there or at the Big Bear
There you go.
Snow Summit, Blue Steel.
Hell yeah,
That's the
man.
trail.
Well, I appreciate your time. I was really stoked
Yeah.
for the conversation we had at Buckeye and then to continue it now. And I think that the right people will hear these messages and it will have an impact. And so, yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always up for a conversation, and I appreciate and I always want to be honest. So if anybody's got questions about anything, man, just hit me up. I'll definitely, I'm on Instagram enough to where I could respond. I might not post a bunch of pictures, but yeah, I think it's good to have these conversations, BMX, and maybe give people perspective, and I also feel like, we're all really lucky. And so the minute you might feel like taking it a little too serious, take a step back and realize that you're on a kid's bike.
There it is. All right. Well, thank you, man.
You, man.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right, cheers.